We have some brand new information on the Diablo respec costs, as well as some tweets and updates from Rob Ferguson himself, where he goes over several of your most asked questions. We also have some postings and some questions around the legendary system, as well as the secret levels, and a possible exploit that people are kind of worried about. But let's just get on to it. What's up, world? Should be back again with another video. Today we're checking out all things Diablo 4. But first up, we'll go over the respec costs, as there was a Wowhead post just yesterday about all of this, to which Rod also tweeted some information about it, so we'll go over that quickly. So someone asked, Diablo 4 was a great game for me and my friends who have enjoyed it. We're all older now and really don't want to have to remake our characters, huge time waste. Instead of being able to more easily redistribute skill points in this, for sure going to ship in for launch. And Rod replied with, it's not prohibitively expensive. We've made it easier by being able to refund a single skill point or the entire skill tree at once. Which I know a lot of people were kind of worried that it was going to be a high cost to respec, kind of like how it is with Path of Exile, although I've never played that game. I heard that it's like super expensive and really hard to switch out your spec. So it seems like they're saying that you could just refund the one skill point, but we all kind of knew that. I hope it just doesn't go too high exponentially with the gold cost. And it didn't seemingly. I know that the more you did the respec, the more it did cost. However, that could also increase with your levels, seeing as you have a ton of gold. But I'll be honest, across both of my characters, technically, like I had 4 characters. I had the hardcore and the casual, and the hardcores obviously shared inventory and gold, and so did the casuals. And combining both of those, I had 900,000 gold on the main, or the main 2, and then on the hardcore I had around 700,000 gold. So I had like 1.6 million, and I was spending it on and off, so it did seem fairly easy to get gold. Especially if you're already grinding the game, you're probably gonna have a ton of gold at the end of the game already, and you won't be spending it too much through leveling. At least that's what it seems like to me. Now they also went over that according to the dev team, the level grind to 100 will take at least 100 hours. Now they also dropped some updated stats from the last video, and I'm not sure what changed. I think they just released the numbers kind of prematurely, because I'm pretty sure the last image had open beta on it and the closed beta, but seemingly maybe this is both. Regardless, there was 61 million hours played and 2.6 million wolf packs earned, seemingly over 2.6 million players, which is just absolutely insane for a beta. Now as far as that possible exploit goes, there were some people that were actually worried about loot going into your inbox. If you don't know, when you're in a dungeon and a legendary drops and you leave that dungeon without picking up that legendary, it actually sends that legendary to your mailbox. I've never gotten a legendary in there, as I usually picked them all up, but I got like a few box crates too. Those will also appear in your mailbox. But there is a comment here that kind of highlights why that could be an issue, or why it could potentially be exploited. Essentially, people are afraid that this enables a new group of play meta where you split into different directions and clear a dungeon faster. If you don't need to backtrack to get your loot, this becomes pretty efficient. After the dungeon, you teleport to the city, collect your legendaries, reset, and repeat the process. Honestly, this isn't as bad as it sounds because it only revolves around legendaries. In the end, you miss out on all the rare gear that you need to put in the legendary powers on. In my honest opinion, people just complain for the sake of complaining. This feature is totally cool, especially with all of us with the FOMO. I do agree that it's probably not as bad as it sounds. However, I do think this is going to be exploited very heavily. I don't think that's going to be taken away. And going back and getting those rares, for right now, we've only had 3 statted rares and 4 statted legendaries, so it is kind of curious what we'll get at the end game. I've heard that there's going to be 5 statted rares, and there'll be more stats than the legendaries themselves. If that's the case, then I could see why you would need to pick up every loot piece. If it's not, and the legendaries are the stronger of the two, or that there's no, like, they're more affordable or better stats than doing into rare gear, then I could see this exploited pretty heavily. However, though, I will probably still pick up all that rare gear, as I will need to either expect it in there or whatever the case is. Seemingly, because the rares have such a high stat proc chance for certain things and can have more and better stats than the legendaries, it's already hard to get the rolls that you want on a legendary, so getting all 4 stats or 5 stats to line up is also going to be incredibly hard. Regardless, we'll have to see how this goes. I still think it's going to be a big farming method when the game comes out. Now, I do want to go over some other of Rod's tweets very quickly, because there's a few big questions on here that people have asked, and people have been asking him about the mouse and keyboard support for consoles, and apparently he's been answering this quite a lot. He said, I have answered this many times. We're not adding additional support beyond what they already natively support. And I mean, that overall makes sense. Whatever's natively supported is going to be supported. It's not like they can do so much more to get that to be supported. However, I will will say that I was not a fan of how mouse and keyboard played on PC. There was a lot of latency for me, way more so than Lost Ark. In fact, I had several issues that I showcased in one of my last videos. Essentially, I would be autoing an enemy, and my character, before the enemy would be downed, would randomly walk over to it. And so what I noticed is that the cursor, even if it's positioned over the enemy, they're still alive, it can randomly turn from red to gray. And that seems like a server-sided issue that's not detecting an enemy there. And so now my character model, instead of autoing an enemy from range, because I play a ranged character, is now walking toward the enemy. And yeah, for me that felt absolutely horrible, so I really do hope that they fix that. There also seems to be a lot of concerns about legendaries adding so much power instead of it being on the skill tree. But basically the TLDR of all of it is that essentially the bonus aspects were 100% to 30%, whereas the skill points only do 10 to 30%. So there's quite a massive difference there. In fact, it's 10x difference or tenfold difference, and it just goes to show that like additional skill points that you receive on your gear probably not going to be that much needed, especially if you already have a 200 plus bonus multiplier. And again, these are multiplicative, so these can be scaled and kind of do insane numbers. And in fact, I think there was a barb build that did like a couple 100,000 damage that was recently showcased. So yeah, we'll have to see how this goes on launch, although I do think it's cool to have like this sort of gear grind and have a lot of the aspects and stuff on that. Legendaries really matter, although again, it could mean that everything is kind of too streamlined and too easy for the game. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. There was also some talks around the secret level and if there would be one in D4, as there was one in D2 and it was the cow level, and there was a few others I think, and D3 had a few as well. The most notably is like the rainbow level. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, if they don't have a secret level in the game at all, and there was in the previous, that is not a good sign. It essentially says like the developers didn't really either have the time to finish something like that or didn't really have the passion to put something like that in. And either of those answers are not good. So let's hope there is a secret level, because if there isn't one, that really does, especially, I know it's not like a big deal, but that does take away from the game overall, just in the aspect that there wasn't maybe a lot of passion on this one like there was with the other games. When developers add these cool little fun things to do, it really does showcase that they had a good time making the game and they were very passionate about making it at the very least. In my last video, we also talked about a Diablo map that leaked, but I showcased the interactive one since there is some DMCA stuff there. Someone also went ahead and created another Diablo map that has some sort of cool updating to it, so I'll leave that down below as well. But that does about cover for today's video, and if you enjoy it, like and subscribe, and until the next one, deuce.